Well, we hope that you got more insight into how Norway is doing the best in trying to not only influence how we manage our oil resources, but also shape up the human resource in the sector. You know, we're always talking about local content not having enough and not getting the shares of what the sector brings. But talking about all that, over the last 24 hours, we've been discussing a surge upwardly of petroleum prices on the market, and that has also led to many conversations around the mainstream media and many discussion platforms, especially on social media. But what better way to look at what the whole sector is? Why do we have these increments? What factors externally or internally could be influencing all these, and what we should be expecting as consumers over the next year or before the close of the year, more specifically. Who better than to help us do the conversations? I have with Gasop Oil, upstream petroleum explorators right here in our country, but also working across the West African sub-region. Kojo Poku is representing them. Good morning to you, Mr. Poku.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, and then we have Ishmael Ajekumhene. He is with Kite. They want to make sure that we have the best solutions for energy in our country, and so please go look out for them on their website as well, Kite Energy. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so let's begin the conversation.
That free promotion you have to pay.
What about yours? Easy Ghana, man.
but it's also instrumental that you're also on the PRC board, even though that's not why you're here. But many people, I don't know, were amazed or may not have been amazed. We were not amazed or surprised at those increments. We had been expecting it for the better part of the last week, but it just came. And usually, for you monitoring up there, what could be the surprises and not too surprises? And why would you make those conclusions?
Well, it's been a trend year on year. You see, September, October has always been the hurricane season and the typhoons around the world. What happens is that the world market price of crude is basically a demand and supply. When there's so much supply and nobody is taking the products, it makes the prices go down, because when it's traded, nobody's buying. When we get to the hurricane season and the typhoon season, it means that most refineries, which are on seashores in the southern part of America and Mexico, has to shut down. When we have hurricanes, all these oil platforms, the rigs that are on the high seas, have to be evacuated and shut down. So it means that within that period, there is less product coming onto the market, and the demand still remains the same. So it means that the prices will now go up. Now, bear in mind, all these are forward sales agreements, which is now traded on the world market. So what it means is that in this period, people know what the stock of crude oil is going to be and what the demand is, and because of that, prices will be higher. We expect it to come back down after October, when all these rigs and refineries open again and there is more product on the market. That is why for some of us, if you go back into your archives, you realize that we had the same conversation last year around September.
Yeah, we did. I remember that too. But at the end of the day, we know that the conversation around fuel pricing in our country has been hovering around regulation, etc. Before then, we had ad valorem that will be added. We had all the indicative pricing or prices, etc. But if we have to come down to our market, what have been some of the considerations that the managers of the economy, those that do the distribution or make sure that they bring the oil into our country, would have to consider before we come to the conclusion about what price mix we have?
Okay, so, you know, Ghana started down this deregulation road way back in 2005. And that basically meant that they were opening up the downstream petroleum sector to allow the private sector to come and have a role to play. Hitherto, it was Tor that was virtually doing everything, importing crude to refine, and then giving it to the distribution companies to sell. So once that decision was taken, the deregulation was set in motion. In 2016, we all heard there was a policy to say Ghana is going full deregulation. What that means basically is that the private sector, the bulk distribution companies, they are the ones who are largely bringing the product. We all know that Tor is virtually dead. So most of the products we consume are imported. So when the products come in, you have the various, there's a build-up, price build-up, which is influenced by the global oil market, it's influenced by the supplier's margin, and it's also influenced by the freight and insurance. So then you have what they call the ex-refinery price. We're still using ex-refinery price because we're still stuck in this whole toll thing. But basically, it's the landed cost of the product on the Ghanaian market. And now you have all these depot margins, the bust margins that you load onto them. And then you go into eventually the taxes and the levies come in, and then you have what we call the export price, which is what you and I pay. So basically, apart from the taxes and the levies, which are mostly a percentages of the ex-depot or some components of the price, the effect or the cost of the landed product is a key determinant. And then because we buy and sell in cedis, the exchange rate is also a key factor. So if you have crude prices, world market prices of the products going up, and you are not fortunate and the currency is also going down, then automatically, because government says that the policy now is that we're not going to subsidize products and we're going to allow full cost pass-through. So if you bring the thing today and the exchange rate used to be 4.2 and now it's 4.9 or 4.7, 4.8, that's the cost of bringing the products to the market. That one government can't do anything about it. If there's anything that government can do, then it's the levies and the taxes that actually goes to the government. But those monies are already literally collateralized with the ESLA. The ESLA fund, those monies are almost like standing orders. The money hits the account, it goes straight into the ESLA account. So basically, the moment we chose this pathway, I mean, the only thing that has saved us between 2016 and what we're seeing now is that two factors that mostly determines what we pay, they were all going in the opposite direction. Crude prices, we know, have suffered for a very long time. They've stagnated for a very long time. And there was some relative stability in the exchange rate regime. So we haven't felt the full impact of the total deregulation. So we should be ready. I mean, unless the government changes its policy, you don't have any control. I mean, Trump can just wake up one morning and declare war and crude prices will go. He will just say that I'm going to attack somebody. He will make one careless statement and then the market will react. Okay, these power players, we all know it. Once America sneezes,
the world catches a cold.
Everybody catches a cold. Okay, Russia can decide to flex their muscles before you realize crude prices are going up. What we should have a handle over is the macroeconomy, which ultimately determines the exchange rate. Okay, so if we're able to keep a handle of the macroeconomy, then we'll be in the position to control the exchange rate factor, because ultimately, whatever happens on the global market, we can't control that. Unfortunately, we bring in the product ourselves, virtually 100%. I mean, the Jubilee, the Tenfields, we don't even have enough to meet the
Kojo, what are we? A net importer or net exporter?
Net importer.
Net importer. I mean, in crude, we export the crude.
Great.
But we bring in,
as far as
are concerned, I mean, TOR,
distribution and consumption.
Even if TOR is to work, we'll still net import, because TOR capacity now is not as it was before. They are doing something like 30,000 barrels a day if they are open, because government has not been able to recapitalize them to get crude oil. They are shut down. I mean, if we're able to get TOR working, we might be able to get some relief, because what my brother talks of, the ex-refinery, instead of ex-refinery being Amsterdam or somewhere in Europe or Rotterdam, ex-refinery will be in Ghana. So you will save some money per barrel or per liter, because you don't have to track it by ship and pay all the cost and insurance and freight.
Currently, you look at the pricing regulation and the way the formula is per what the MPA Act says. We have fuel margin, the price stabilization, etc. If you look at the current line items, which gives us what pricing we have by way of the components, do we still really have full deregulation?
Yes, we do. I mean, I'll give you the line items. What we have now is energy debt recovery levy. We have road fund levy. And then we have the energy fund levy. Then you have the price stabilization and recovery fund. Now, what people don't seem to realize, as the price stands at the pump today, okay, your price stabilization and recovery levy is zero. One of the things that this government has done over the periods of, I think, from last year till now, is they've reduced that levy from 10 pesos to zero. So no longer, as the price stands at 5.1 at the pump, there is no stabilization levy or recovery levy in there. What is in there, which before used to be a valerium, which is the special petroleum tax, which everybody was saying that it was introduced because there was a problem some 3-4 years ago, and that's why the government introduced it. Now that that situation no longer exists, government should reduce it. I have a different opinion. I think that, look, the government did not meet the best economy. This government is trying to revive a very bad economy, and they need all the money they get. Now, are they doing the best they can in that situation? Yes. Can they do better? Yes, they can. The point is, we as citizens should be able to pay more. Government have three options: either to tax us, to borrow, or to try and do magic. Magic,
do lala sulala.
Or do lala sulala, or magic. Now, magic we know is not possible. So it's two things: either government borrow or tax us. I would rather government tax us to borrow. From 2012 to today, in the last 6 years, if we have embarked on prudent taxation and not go on the borrowing spree, Ghana will be better off for it today than we would have been, because what we are paying in terms of the interest on the borrowed money is what's hurting the country. Now, subsidies in the downstream sector, FX losses. Look, it's a mess. When the government started in those times to do FX losses, where if the exchange rate is 4 cedis, government will tell the BDCs, no, do 3.5. Yeah. I will pay the 0.5. Yeah. And then
luck in that payment.
And look, they've sent PULC, they've sent PwC, they've sent all the auditors, and it's still a mess. How much the BDCs are claiming government owes them is up in the sky.
The synchronization hasn't been done.
Exactly. It's difficult because, you see, so it's the best policy. It's hurting us because when petroleum prices go up, everything else goes up, because the average guy, his salary is not going up in accordance to the increase in petroleum. We agree. But the good thing in Ghana today is that all these unions, GPRTU, and always holding us to ransom, asking for more money for high fares they've already charging us. Now we have alternative transportation.
Which is what?
Which is the Ubers and the Taxify. Which can
that's
tell
for
you
in the city.
No, I'm just
that's
giving
not
you.
for
I'm
the
just
ordinary
giving
man
you,
who is coming from Kumasi to Bidiase.
Well, but I'm giving you an example. The example I'm giving you is that we have now come to realize that the increase or high petroleum charges is not a direct correlation to increase in fares. VIP have charged the same Accra Kumasi fare for a very, very long time. Every time there's increase in petroleum prices, VVIP doesn't increase their fares. It's been a certain amount for a very long time. Why? Don't they buy the same diesel that we all buy? So what I'm saying is that the union are hijacking us and demanding money, money, money. When our pockets don't increase in the same way, government, being the bigger employer in this country, is caught in a very...
You are saying members of the union who buy constantly on a daily basis the produce or the fuel from the stations don't buy it on the increased amount. Is that what you're saying?
No, they do buy it on the increased amount. But
so why is it that it's not legitimate for them to demand?
Because there are other people offering the same service who are charging less.
On what throughput basis? It's based on the demand supply situation.
Yes, but exactly. So my point is that the point I'm trying to make is that increase in petroleum prices does not necessarily necessitate increase in fares. But anytime there's increase in petroleum prices, what is the increase today that we are talking about? It's 24 pesos on a liter.
It's nothing for you.
It's not nothing for me. It's nothing for everybody. Look, if you buy 1 gallon, it's 1 cedi, 8 pesos. Now, a taxi driver who buys 5 gallons a day, that's 5 cedis more than he has to spend. Does it mean that he has to get 10% increase in fares? No. That my point I'm trying to get across is that we should be a give and take situation where an increase in petroleum prices, which is temporal anyway. Look, this situation will recede after October because the high market prices will come down. I am guaranteed and assured by the powers that be that by the next couple of weeks coming down, the cocoa syndication loan is coming in. It will help Bank of Ghana get some dollar reserves, and it will take the pressure off the cedi. So that price will also come down. So this situation is temporal. So there's no need to go and increase fares on the market and cause the kinky or the watches seller to also increase his prices.
Well, but we do understand how much crude is being sold on the market and toward optimal. So it's just below the $80 mark. Could increase depends on what dynamics there are beyond the normal force majeure of the typhoons and the rest, because we know the Saudis and the other Emiratis also have been complaining about the need to keep their pumps up but control the prices. If some of these dynamics should play negatively in our hands, the current economic woes of how we manage the economy continues vis-a-vis the balance of trade, the deficit, etc., we're in for trouble.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what Kojo Poku says about
I mean, then
we're in for trouble.
No, I mean, there are things that are beyond our control. Obviously, if we should ever get into the realms, those scenarios where when we started producing oil, we're selling a barrel at 114. A barrel of crude oil has actually hit $140 in the past. Those scenarios, it will hit every economy, not just Ghana. I mean, it will hit the US, it will hit everybody. Oil, crude prices, they are global commodity. That we don't have control. So if there were to be an unusual hike, obviously that would translate to the cost of the product in this country. And ultimately that probably would lead to, I mean, the cost of doing business will go up, the transportation costs will go up. It affects virtually everybody. So yes, if we don't keep a handle on the macroeconomy and the external factors also don't work in our favor, then it's going to affect not just the Ghanaian economy, but every economy which is a net importer of fuel.
Okay. At the end of the day, we keep talking about how we need to make sure that there's proper management. And so vis-a-vis, because of the constant trading in the currency, the dollar, we're always in trouble. But the current shortages we're having is not because people are mopping up the dollar as they want to make consignment or make orders from elsewhere in the market where they have to do the imports.
No, but that's what it is. You see, the trend of the dollar.
But we also have a banking crisis, which has created some sort of panic. Investors with huge monies lodged in some of these accounts of these banks or these institutions, for which somehow they're also investors, seem to be afraid as well.
We have a banking crisis, but I don't think people's savings or reserves have been affected. So if anybody who banks with any of the banks want to make an order, they can easily still have access to their money and make those orders. But you see, again, there is a trend. August, September, October, dollar always goes up because that is when people are placing orders for the Christmas. Okay, so that's a trend. You can look at the historic data.
No, it's there. It's available.
Okay, so now...
the monetary policy of the Bank of Ghana is always
right, so it's a trend. So yes, we expect the increase. When there is an undue increase, is because maybe the reserves which the Bank of Ghana has in terms of dollar is not enough.
The Bank of Ghana told you that because...
no, I'm just saying that the reason that we are having the increase... Look, people...
Let me just apprise you of this information. They've come out public to say that over the last month, and speculatively, based on what the literature has been in the last couple of days, that a month before also some $200 million, and last month $200 million had been pumped into the economy to cushion the economy, so to speak. Now, you're saying 1.2 billion. Cocoa syndicated loan is expected to come in to also beef up all that.
You seem to have information, because I never said 1.2 billion, but then again, you seem to have
But the Bank of Ghana hasn't said that it doesn't have the reserves. I mean, that's what we all need to clarify. The Bank of Ghana says that we're doing enough.
Yes, but the reason
this is what we're pushing. It means that the Bank of Ghana is safe.
See, the only reason the cedi weakens against our dollar is the demand and supply. It's nothing else. If nobody in Ghana today does not want the dollar, the dollar price will come down because people have dollar and they won't have any way to change it. Because it's a result of, I want to buy dollar. Do you have dollar? No, I don't. Let me go to company A or company B to look for dollar. Then the scarcity of the dollar is what itches up the price. Because let me tell you what typically happens in Ghana. The banks don't have the dollar. So they now go to the Zamrama man who sits and stands on the roadside. The Zamrama man now mops up at a higher rate for the banks. So that is why the Forex bureaus and the Zamrama people are the ones who control that price dynamics. That is the reality. So the pharmaceutical company, the MTNs and the whatever of the today are buying dollar from the Zamrama man to put it in a bank in order to send it out of the country to import. So if banks have money, the rates that we are quoting today, it's not the bank rates. All the 5 point something
it's
and all
the
those
black
things.
market rate.
Exactly. So if banks have dollar, the rates that the bank will send dollar for you is not the same as what we are quoting as 5 point something today. The forward rate which MPA used for this calculation in this window is 5.03. But the bank rate is not 5.03.
I don't understand all that you're saying.
So the point is that the issue where the price is inching up is, one, at best speculative, two, shortage of dollar in the market.
Okay, sir, but this is anticipated. It's an everyday literature publication. You go and read the Monetary Policy Committee report of the Bank of Ghana, you get this. What he's reiterated is not new. I know that. Everybody knows.
No, Roland,
why is it that we can't anticipate and preempt?
No, people have there are a lot of people who can manipulate the market. I mean, we can run away from that fact.
You mean the Guru henchmen are better than the Bank of Ghana?
No, the Bank of Ghana
with the degrees in there.
No. The Bank of Ghana doesn't control who goes out to import a product and who needs a dollar.
Definitely.
Okay. So basic demand and supply. Since we move into this floating exchange rate regime, where the government doesn't say that this is the rate the dollar should be traded, it basically means that anytime demand exceeds supply, the price of the product goes up. That we know. A number of factors have contributed during this period, apart from historical factors that we all know that this is usually the period where people would want to place their order for Christmas. There are this whole MTN, IPOs. I mean, the monies were actually meant for people. It was clear that it was going to be used to pay people, and that money will be repatriated by all means. Eventually, you need dollars to be able to send it out to those people. A number of things. That's why I was a bit surprised they allowed that IPO to go ahead anyway. So there's pressure on the dollar. Once there's pressure on the dollar, you can't control it. Short of legislating that nobody should buy the product beyond a certain rate. We've moved beyond the fixed exchange rate regime. We are in a floating exchange rate regime. What we need to do, I mean, is just to make sure that if we need to create more dollars by exporting, or we need to make sure that we cut down our appetite for virtually everything that we consume here, we import.
Or ban some importations.
Ban some importations.
Well, the government doesn't have the guts for
exactly.
it. Because we need the revenue.
Somebody is literally taking the dollar to go and bring toothpick. Somebody is just taking the dollar to bring fruit juice.
Those are used people. People are bringing in used.
Exactly. So once we continue
need to ban
do
some things,
but trying to plug that gap by local production will take some time. So a radical move will be say you can bring A, B, C, D. Okay, but we say we are in a free market and everybody is trying to do business. We need to make sure that, and we all need to understand. Everybody complaining, the traders who are complaining, to understand that the more we go to China and the more we need dollar, no government, unless you want to perform some magic, once demand exceeds supply, the rate of the dollar will depreciate.
Balance of trade. We keep talking about the deficit, we're talking about
so what I
the
expect,
import, etc.
What I expect to do, see, is a roadmap to show clearly how we intend to increase our exports and reduce our imports. That wouldn't happen overnight, but we need to have a strategy and pursue it.
Okay, but we have to wrap up the conversation. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. So you have the last word. we're back to the conversation relating the fuel prices to the economy and its performance. Again, we're back to the subject of having the needed sectors to be shored up, to ensure that maybe in the medium to long term, we don't make the demands at this time of the year, etc. But we know that the pricing mix and the way it's looked at and the way it's supposed to be is every 2 weeks. Is that not it?
Yes.
Okay. When do we expect the next one? How do you think it will look like by way of the pricing?
I am giving 6 weeks, okay, for it to be normalized. I'm giving 6 weeks. 6 weeks because the end of October from now. To me, because enough time for the syndication loans to come in to basically help release the pressure on the city. 2 weeks because we don't know when the world weather pattern has changed. So the hurricanes might go on longer. It came later this year, so it might go on longer than we expect. So I am looking at 6 weeks. We might have a little bit more upward adjustment from where we are, but I can assure you by the end of October, you can bring me back on this show and whip me if you want, the prices would have receded more. But the last thing I want to say is that I am giving 4 pointers, and I'm actually going to write a letter to the president. 4 pointers where I think government should take seriously to reduce the pressure on the city. 1, every upstream contract that is given by these oil companies, 20% of that money should be paid in cedis. 2, we should create a relationship between our cedi and the Chinese currency. We should create a relationship between our cedi and the naira. We had that discussion before. 3, we should ban certain products. Because all this one district, one factory that the government want to do, if you do not create a demand locally for products, the factories you want to build will not happen. We are clapping for Dangote today because Obasanjo banned importation of cement into Nigeria. That is how Dangote happened. So let me leave it at 3. But my point is that we need to have drastic measures. And to me, these 3 measures, I'm going to write a letter to the president that, look, unless we do these things, I'm sorry.
Well, tariff measures, but we have to liberalize the gateway as it is. It looks like we're too much of a Father Christmas. That's what Kojo Poku of GASOP seemed to be saying, but it has some pointers also for the finance minister and the rest of the cabinet of the Akufo-Addo administration. We hope that we can make some input and also make sure that we stabilize and normalize it. But Ishmael Ejekomeni, you work with Kite. Thanks for joining me as well. You have a serious meeting this morning. We wish you all the best. All right, but at the pumps, the prices are where they are. Kojo Poku says that we should just be a little bit absorbing. Let's
patient.
Okay, patient, not angry.
Yeah.
Okay, and try to just be receptive to the tide that things will normalize.